Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Emma Thompson stood outside staring through the window of the most luxurious cafe in Beverly Hills. The marble floor reflected the golden light of the sunset. The upholstered chairs looked like modern thrones, and every customer seemed as if they had just stepped out of a business magazine, but none of that mattered. Her eyes were fixed on the man in the blue suit by the window, laughing with a blonde woman whose laugh pierced the air. For Emma, there was only one explanation. This was the traitor who had been making her friend cry every night. Her blood boiled. She pushed the glass door open without hesitation. Her heels echoed like a siren across the room. A waiter tried to stop her, but she slipped past with the certainty of someone who had already decided to cause a scandal. She stopped in front of the table and declared, "You're nothing but a cheap fraud, a traitor." The entire cafe froze. A spoon clinked against a saucer. Someone gasped as if they were watching the final episode of a soap opera. The man in the blue suit looked up, green eyes narrowing, dark hair perfectly combed. Beside him, an elegant woman wearing pearls and carrying herself like royalty nearly choked on her tea. "Excuse me, who are you?" the man asked, his voice deep and calm. "Don't pretend, David," Emma shot back firmly. "I'm Emma Thompson, Laura's friend, the woman you swore to love and then left behind, like a message you read and ignored." A murmur swept through the tables. Phones were discreetly lifted. The pearl-clad lady set her cup down carefully, but instead of being shocked, she smiled with interest. "Emma, isn't it?" she said. "My dear, I'm afraid you picked the wrong man." Emma blinked, stunned. "What do you mean? This isn't the David you're looking for," the lady explained. "This is my son, Nathan Hayes. And as it happens, he's very single." Nathan raised his eyebrows, incredulous. "Mother? What?" Emma looked again. Her heart nearly stopped. 2 tables back, the real David, also in a blue suit, was slipping out of the cafe like a poorly rehearsed thief. She swallowed hard. Too late now. The audience was already captivated by the scene she had just performed. "That was a little embarrassing," Emma admitted, shrinking back. "But on second thought, still less embarrassing than deceiving a woman." Nathan let out a crooked smile. "A little but cheap fraud? I'll admit that's creative. That nickname is new even for me." Some people chuckled softly. Emma wished she could disappear. But Vivian Hayes, the pearl-clad lady, was already rising with the grandeur of someone who owned every stage she stepped on. "What's your full name, dear?" she asked, extending her hand. "Emma Thompson," Emma replied, hesitant. Vivian clasped her hand firmly and announced loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Emma Thompson. A star's name? The courage of a storm. Perfect." "Perfect for what?" Emma blurted out before thinking. "Unless it's for collecting public embarrassments. In that case, I'm becoming an expert." Vivian lifted her chin theatrical, as if standing before an audience. "Perfect to be the one to set my son straight." Nathan nearly fell off his chair. "Mother, this is absurd." "Don't argue with me, Nathan." She smiled. "You live this life of a millionaire CEO trapped in contracts and glass walls, but you don't know what it means to be truly challenged. And look who destiny just brought in, a fearless young woman who storms into a luxury cafe to defend her friend. Exactly what you need." Emma tried to pull her hand back. "I'm not anyone's spark. At best, I'm a controlled fire when I'm lucky." "A spark?" Vivian laughed. "My dear, you've just proven you have enough fire to set his routine ablaze." "Mother, she called me a cheap fraud," Nathan protested. "And she was right." Vivian winked. "Only a woman who sees a man's flaws can truly make him change." The whole cafe watched, caught between laughter and disbelief. Emma wished she could turn into an ostrich and hide her head, but Nathan's eyes no longer held just confusion. There was curiosity, something more. Then Vivian leaned toward her son's ear, loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's the perfect spark for you, Nathan." Emma never imagined that one embarrassing mistake would lead her into the most intimidating mansion in Bel Air. The Hayes residence looked like a modern art museum. Pristine white walls, expensive abstract paintings, and a silence that echoed wealth. Vivian walked ahead like a queen in her own castle, her heels striking the marble with military precision. Nathan followed behind, visibly uncomfortable, his hands shoved into his pockets as if he wanted to disappear. Please have a seat, Vivian said, pointing to the Italian leather armchairs that cost more than Emma's car. The living room could fit an entire family. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Los Angeles glittering like diamonds scattered across the dark night. Emma felt small inside that space. Mrs. Vivian, thank you for the invitation, but I really should go home, Emma murmured, uneasy. Nonsense. You're staying for dinner. Mother, she's not some trophy you found on the street, Nathan cut in. Of course not, Vivian replied. She's much better than that. The door opened and Harold Hayes entered. Tall, with neatly combed gray hair and a suit that cost more than an apartment. His cold eyes scanned Emma as if she were a poorly closed deal. This is the young woman who caused the scandal at the cafe, he asked without greeting her. Father, there's no need to be rude, Nathan said. Rude? I'm being practical. We have a serious problem, Nathan. And your mother seems to think she's found an interesting solution. Emma frowned. What problem? Harold sat down in an armchair as if it were a throne. My son must marry by the end of the month or he loses everything. The air seemed to thicken. Emma looked from Harold to Nathan, then to Vivian, waiting for someone to shout. Just kidding, no one did. What do you mean loses everything? Emma asked. His grandfather's hidden inheritance has a very specific clause, Harold explained, cold as ice. Nathan inherits full control of the company only if he's married before the age of 32. And when is his birthday? 4 weeks from now, Vivian answered, smiling as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Nathan stood up, irritated. Father, I already told you I won't marry just because of some ridiculous contract. Then prepare to live on an allowance of $100,000 a month, Harold shot back. Because the company will go to your cousin. Emma felt as if she had fallen into a soap opera. Wait, you're suggesting that? That you marry Nathan? Vivian completed, radiant. A marriage of convenience. Nothing more than a business arrangement. That's insane, Emma said, standing up. It's practical, Harold corrected. You gain financial security. He keeps the inheritance. Simple. Simple. Emma laughed, incredulous. I don't even know this man. Until 11 hours ago, I thought he was a traitor named David. Nathan looked at her with a strange expression. And would you agree to it? A marriage without love? Emma hesitated. The question had a challenging edge, as if he were testing her. It's not love, it's a contract, she murmured, echoing his words. And even so, I already feel like I've lost. The phrase came out more melancholy than Emma had intended. Nathan stared at her with renewed intensity. You haven't lost anything yet, he said quietly. Emma's phone vibrated. A message that froze her blood. Miss Thompson, Benjamin Cole, attorney. I need to speak with you tomorrow regarding charges of slander and defamation. Mr. David Jenkins is suing you over the cafe incident. Emma went pale. What is it? Vivian asked. I am being sued. Harold smiled like a shark that had scented blood. Interesting. And how much do you have to pay for lawyers, Miss Thompson? Nothing, Emma admitted, her voice almost disappearing. Then it seems our proposal just became much more attractive, Harold said. Marry Nathan and our legal team will handle everything. Refuse, and good luck facing the courts alone. Emma felt cornered. The mansion's luxury suddenly seemed like a golden prison. If marriage were coffee, I'd order it decaf, she muttered, trying to ease the tension with humor. Nathan chuckled softly despite everything. And if it were, what flavor would it be? Bitter, she replied, looking at him with a mix of defiance and resignation. Vivian slid a contract across the coffee table. Everything is ready. 1 year of marriage, then an amicable divorce. You'll receive generous compensation. He keeps the company. Emma looked at the document as if it were a death sentence. And if I don't sign, then tomorrow you'll wake up with no money, no lawyer, and a lawsuit that could ruin your life, Harold said mercilessly. Nathan stepped closer to her. Emma, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She cut him off, picking up the pen with a trembling hand. Blue ink slid across the paper like dried tears. Emma Thompson had just signed a secret contract that would change everything. When she lifted her face, Nathan was watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Vivian clapped quietly. Harold only nodded, satisfied. Welcome to the most expensive arranged marriage in Los Angeles, Harold announced. Emma looked out the window at the city lights that now belonged to her new life against her will. 3 days under the same roof, and Nathan still treated Emma like part of the furniture. His penthouse in downtown Los Angeles, overlooked the entire city, but the atmosphere was as cold as an industrial freezer. Emma woke up early, made coffee, and greeted the walls because he had already left for work. He came back late, ate dinner alone in his office, and disappeared into his room like a well-dressed ghost. On the fourth morning, she decided things had to change. Nathan came down to the open kitchen at exactly 7 as always. Perfect gray suit, navy blue tie, hair slicked with imported gel. He grabbed the coffee Emma had prepared, didn't even look at her, and went straight to his laptop. "Good morning to you too," Emma muttered to the refrigerator. He grunted something that could have been a greeting or a cough. Emma rolled her eyes and opened the fridge. Empty. Completely empty except for a bottle of imported water and a jar of French butter. "Seriously?" she asked, incredulous. "You're a millionaire and don't even have an egg in the fridge." Nathan lifted his eyes from the computer for the first time. "I eat out every day." "Every day?" Emma shook her head, amused. "You can own an entire tower, but you don't know how to fry an egg. I don't need to know. I have favorite restaurants, and if one day they all close, will you starve in your own house?" Nathan looked at her as if she had suggested he should learn to fly. "That will never happen." "Of course it will." Emma crossed her arms. "Everyone should know the basics of domestic survival. It's human dignity. Human dignity is not having to cook." Emma laughed out loud. The sound echoed through the penthouse like music in an empty cathedral. "Wow, you really are a rebel heir, aren't you? A rebel against scrambled eggs." For the first time since they met, Nathan almost smiled. Almost. At 7 inches the evening, Emma heard the key in the door. Nathan walked in carrying bags from an expensive Japanese restaurant. "I brought enough for 2, he said without looking at her. "Why?" "Because you live here." Emma felt something strange in her chest. Not gratitude, surprise, as if discovering he was human after all. They had dinner in silence at the huge glass table. Los Angeles glittered below them like an urban constellation. Emma ate sushi, trying not to look impressed by the taste while Nathan flipped through financial reports. "Do you always work while you eat?" she asked. "Always. That must be fun. It's productive. Productive is not the same as fun." Nathan stopped reading and looked at her. "Do you always ask personal questions to strangers?" "You're not a stranger, you're my fake husband." "Contractual husband," he corrected. "Same thing. And yes, I always ask questions. That's how people get to know each other." "I don't need to know you." Emma chewed slowly, thoughtful, and with her mouth still full, said, "Yes, you do. If journalists notice we're an unlikely couple, distant from each other, they'll expose the deal in seconds." Nathan closed the report. She was right. "What do you want to know? What's your favorite color? Is that relevant?" "Everything is relevant when you're pretending to love someone." "Navy blue." Emma nodded as if taking mental notes. "Favorite movie?" "I don't watch movies. Everybody watches movies." "I don't have time." "Then what do you do to relax?" Nathan was silent for so long, Emma thought he had forgotten the question. "I don't relax," he finally said. "That explains a lot." After dinner, they sat on the Italian leather sofa. Emma reached for the remote on the coffee table, but Nathan was faster. "I choose," he said. "Why?" "Because it's my house." "But it's our TV." "There is no our TV. There's my TV in my living room in my penthouse." Emma tried to grab the remote. Nathan raised his arm, keeping it out of her reach. "You're 6 feet tall, that's cheating." "It's not cheating. It's a genetic advantage." Emma climbed on the sofa, trying to grab the remote. Nathan stood up, holding it high like a trophy. She jumped. He dodged. She faked one side and ran to the other. He laughed, really laughed for the first time. "You're stubborn," he said, out of breath. "You're bossy," she shot back, also breathless. They stopped, looking at each other. Emma noticed how close they were. Too close. Nathan had a small scar above his left eyebrow she had noticed before. "Compromise," she whispered. 15 minutes each. Nathan nodded, handing her the remote. "You first." Emma picked an old romantic comedy. Nathan groaned as if he were being tortured, but he didn't leave the room. In fact, she caught him quietly laughing at 2 scenes. When it was his turn, he put on a documentary about modern architecture. Emma pretended she was dying of boredom, but secretly found his passion for structures and design interesting. "You really like this stuff," she said. "I like things that are well built, solid, built to last." Emma gave him a sideways look. like contractual relationships. Nathan didn't answer, but she saw the corner of his mouth twitch slightly. When the documentary ended, Emma realized she was laughing to herself at a silly memory from the morning. Nathan was watching her with curiosity, as if trying to figure out a puzzle. "What are you laughing at?" he asked. "At you fighting with an imaginary egg," she replied, still smiling. Nathan shook his head, but this time he was almost smiling too. Emma looked out the large window and thought that maybe, just maybe, this forced arrangement wouldn't be the nightmare she had imagined. In fact, she was starting to think Nathan wasn't as unbearable as he seemed. The Beverly Wilshire Hotel gleamed like a golden palace in the Hollywood night. Emma adjusted the black dress she had borrowed from Vivian and tried not to trip in the towering heels as she walked down the brightly lit hallways. Nathan was at her side, impeccable in his tuxedo, but she could feel the tension radiating off him like heat. "Relax," Emma murmured. "It's just a corporate event. What could possibly go wrong?" The words were still hanging in the air when a stunning woman appeared at the entrance of the main hall. Blonde hair like liquid gold, a red dress that surely cost more than a car, and a smile as sharp as a blade. "Samantha Brooks." Nathan froze as if he had hit an invisible wall. "Who is she?" Emma asked, noticing his reaction. "Trouble?" Nathan whispered. Samantha moved toward them with the predatory grace of a panther. Guests automatically stepped aside, creating a corridor for her triumphant entrance. "Nathan, darling," she exclaimed, ignoring Emma completely. "It's been so long. You look different, Samantha." He greeted her, formal. "And this must be your assistant." Samantha finally looked at Emma, scanning her from head to toe with thinly veiled disdain. "Wife," Emma corrected, lifting her chin. Samantha laughed as if she had just heard the joke of the century. "Wife. Nathan, you always had a peculiar sense of humor, but this is too much, even for you. Careful, Samantha." Nathan warned, his voice low but threatening. "Careful of what?" she shot back. "Theatrical, the truth. Everyone here knows you'd never marry." She gestured vaguely at Emma. The room began to pay attention. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Emma felt her blood boil, but forced a sweet smile. "You're right," she said calmly. "Nathan would never marry someone superficial." Samantha narrowed her eyes. "Excuse me, dear, but do you know who you're talking to?" "I do. Samantha Brooks, Nathan's ex-girlfriend, current." Emma paused dramatically. "Current what exactly? Because as far as I know, you're an ex-everything." Some guests stifled laughs. Samantha's face turned as red as her dress. "You have no idea what you're up against," she hissed. "Don't underestimate someone who has nothing to lose." Emma shot back. "Steady." Nathan looked at Emma with something close to admiration. She had just faced one of the most powerful women in Los Angeles, without blinking. At that moment, a man in a gray suit approached. Tall, thin, with gold-rimmed glasses and a calculated smirk. Benjamin Cole. "Miss Thompson," he said, extending his hand. "What a coincidence running into you here." Emma turned pale. He was the lawyer suing her. "Mr. Cole?" she greeted, hesitant. "You know Benjamin?" Samantha asked, intrigued. "I do," Benjamin replied, his smirk widening. "We're settling some legal matters." Nathan stepped closer to Emma, protective. "What kind of matters?" "Slander, defamation, public embarrassment." Benjamin listed them off as if reading a menu. "Miss Thompson caused a scandal, and now she has to pay the consequences." Samantha clapped her hands, pretending to be surprised. "Oh my, and here I thought you two were a happy couple." "We are," Nathan said firmly. "Of course you are," Benjamin laughed. "So much so that she's being sued for publicly humiliating another man." How romantic. Emma felt cornered. The whole room was watching now, waiting for the next move in this family drama. "Benjamin, darling," said a familiar voice behind them. Vivian Hayes entered like the owner of an empire that never needs to announce its arrival. A navy blue dress, a pearl necklace, and an expression that could freeze hell itself. "Mrs. Vivian," Benjamin greeted her, visibly uncomfortable. "I heard you've been bothering my daughter-in-law," she said, her tone sweet, but her eyes dangerous. "Just following the law, ma'am." "The law?" Vivian laughed. "My dear, I helped write some of those laws, and I can assure you suing someone over a misunderstanding in a coffee shop is not exactly wise." Benjamin swallowed hard. "With all due respect, it's a solid case." "Solid as Jell-O," Vivian cut in, "especially when the real culprit was indeed a traitor, which, by the way, We've already proven. Emma blinked, surprised. Vivian had investigated David. Samantha realized the tide was turning against her. "Well, how lovely to see the whole family together," she said sarcastically. "But that doesn't change the fact that this girl doesn't belong in our world." "Our world?" Vivian raised an eyebrow. "Samantha, dear, you were born in Fresno. Your father sold vacuum cleaners door to door." The silence that followed was deafening. Samantha turned pale as paper. "That's true," Vivian finished. "Unlike Emma, who is at least authentic. My son doesn't deserve you, but maybe the company does." Nathan nearly choked, trying not to laugh. Benjamin realized he had lost ground. "Well, I should go," he stammered, stepping back. "Excellent idea," Vivian agreed. "And Benjamin, if I hear you're still bothering my daughter-in-law, I'll have to remind you of a few favors you owe me." Benjamin left the hall as if escaping a fire. Samantha, however, didn't give up so easily. She approached Emma with a poisonous smile. "Enjoy it while you can, dear," she whispered. "Too low for the others to hear, because I'll destroy this little play you've put together, and when I'm done, you'll wish you had never heard the name Hayes." Emma felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Samantha walked away with lethal elegance, but before disappearing into the crowd, she turned one last time. "The war has only just begun," she promised loud enough for Nathan to hear. Emma looked at Nathan, who was pale as a ghost. She had just made a very dangerous enemy. Cameras flashed like angry fireflies in the main hall of Hayes Enterprises. Emma had never seen so many journalists together. They looked like a hungry school of fish circling prey. Nathan was on stage presenting the company's quarterly results, impeccable as always. But Emma noticed the tension in his shoulders. She stayed at the back of the room, trying to be invisible. Not easy considering half the reporters recognized her as the woman from the coffee shop scandal. "And now questions," Nathan announced, adjusting the microphone. A blonde journalist raised her hand. "Mr. Hayes, is it true your marriage is just a strategy to keep the family inheritance?" Emma felt her stomach drop. Nathan kept his face neutral. "My personal life is not up for discussion here, but your wife caused a public scandal just a few days ago." Another reporter pressed. "Doesn't that affect the company's image?" "Next question." Nathan cut in cold. Emma realized the journalists were more interested in attacking her than in financial data. She decided to slip out through the side door, but stopped when she heard raised voices in the hallway. "I won't do it," said a young woman, clearly panicked. Emma stepped closer. A cleaning staff member, no older than 20, was cornered by two men in suits. "Lisa, be reasonable." One of them said, "It's just a simple statement. You say the boss's wife treated you badly, and we'll handle the rest." "But that's a lie," Lisa protested. "She was kind to me yesterday." "No one will know it's a lie," the other man insisted. "And you get $5,000. Emma recognized the first man. He was Samantha Brooks's assistant. "Are you trying to bribe her?" Emma interrupted, stepping into the doorway. The man turned startled. "Miss Thompson," the assistant said, forcing a smile. "What a coincidence." "Not a coincidence. You're trying to buy false testimony against me." Lisa looked from Emma to the men, frightened. "I need to work," she stammered, trying to leave. "Wait, Lisa," Emma said gently. "No one can force you to lie." $5,000, the assistant repeated. "That's more than you earn in 3 months, and your dignity," Emma countered. "How much is that worth?" Lisa hesitated, tears in her eyes. "I have 2 children. I need the money." Emma's heart tightened. She knew that situation all too well. She had grown up in a family that always needed money. "Listen," she said, placing a hand on Lisa's shoulder. "I don't need a last name to know what's right, and this isn't right." "You don't understand," Lisa whispered. "They said, if I don't do this, I'll lose my job." Emma looked at the men with growing anger. "Are you threatening her? We're offering an opportunity," the assistant corrected. "An opportunity to destroy your own integrity." Emma shot back. "Lisa, you seem like a good person. Don't let them turn you into a pawn in their dirty game. But the money? If you need financial help, we'll find another way without lying, without hurting anyone." The men exchanged irritated looks. "Miss Thompson, you're interfering in matters you don't understand," said the second man. "I understand perfectly." Emma fired back. "You're Samantha Brooks's lackeys trying to invent a scandal. But you know what I think? I think you can take those $5,000 in." Emma. Nathan's voice echoed through the hallway. He appeared, followed by a crowd of journalists. Cameras immediately turned toward the scene in the hallway. "What's happening here?" Nathan asked. Emma took a deep breath. She knew that whatever she said now would be tomorrow's headline. These men were trying to bribe Lisa to invent a story against me. The flashes exploded like fireworks. The men in suits turned pale. "That's a lie," the assistant protested. "Lisa?" Emma looked at the young woman. "Tell the truth." Lisa trembled for a moment, then lifted her chin. "They offered me money to lie," she said, her voice low but firm. The place erupted. Journalists shouted questions. Cameras rushed everywhere. The men in suits tried to escape. Nathan stepped closer to Emma. "Are you sure about what you're doing?" he whispered. "I am," she answered, looking straight into the cameras. "If this goes in the paper, at least choose a good picture." Some journalists laughed. Nathan watched her with an expression Emma had never seen before. Admiration, pride, something deeper. "Miss Thompson," a reporter shouted. "Do you have any statement about Miss Brooks's accusations?" "I do," Emma said firmly. "Samantha Brooks is desperate to destroy my marriage, and I won't let her drag innocent people into this war. And what about the lawsuit against you? The truth always comes out, and when it does, you'll see who was really lying." Nathan discreetly held her hand, a small gesture, but one the cameras caught. "My wife," he said into the microphone, "is the bravest person I know." The hallway went silent for a moment, then it erupted in applause. Emma smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. For the first time since the forced marriage, she felt she had done the right thing. But when she looked back, she saw Lisa being comforted by other employees and realized her brave move had given Samantha even more ammunition. Tomorrow's headlines were brutal, and she had just painted a giant target on her own back. The headlines hit like a tsunami. The next morning, Emma woke up to find Nathan already dressed, phone pressed to his ear, speaking so fast she could barely follow. From what little she understood, the situation was terrible. "We need to go to the office," he said, hanging up. Now, the Hayes Enterprises building was surrounded by journalists like an attacked anthill. Cameras, microphones, and shouts blended into a chaotic symphony. Emma held tightly to Nathan's hand as they pushed through the crowd. Flashes burst directly into her eyes, blinding her for moments. "Miss Thompson, is it true you forged documents? Emma, are you involved in money laundering? Nathan, is your wife a fraud?" Emma stopped, confused. "What are they talking about?" she asked. Nathan pulled her inside the building without answering. The conference room was full. Stern executives, lawyers with worried faces, and Harold Hayes at the center of it all, radiating contained fury. Finally, Harold said when they entered, "We have a situation." A lawyer opened a laptop and showed the screen to everyone. The website of the biggest financial newspaper in Los Angeles was loaded with the headline, "Hayes's wife accused of document fraud." Emma felt the world spin. "That's a lie," she whispered. "Of course it is," Nathan said. "But the press doesn't care about the truth." Harold crossed his arms. "Documents supposedly signed by you, Emma, have appeared authorizing irregular bank transfers. I never signed anything except our contract." "We know that," one of the lawyers said, "but the handwriting is flawless. Whoever did this is a professional." Emma sank into a chair. Her mind was racing, trying to understand how this had happened. "It's Samantha," she finally said. "It has to be probably," Harold agreed, "but we can't prove it. And in the meantime, our company is being investigated for fraud." Nathan's phone rang. He answered quickly, speaking in a low voice with someone from the office. Emma caught words like investigation, serious, and immediate action. When he hung up, his face was pale. "The Securities Commission wants a meeting today." "What does that mean?" Emma asked. "It means," Harold said coldly, "that you've become a very expensive problem for this family." Emma felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. "But I didn't do anything." "It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do," Harold shot back. "It matters what they can prove, and apparently they can prove quite a lot." Nathan stood. "Father, you're being unfair." "Unfair?" Harold laughed bitterly. "Nathan, this investigation could destroy everything we've built. Everything. So, what do you want me to do?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. "Disappear," Harold said mercilessly. "At least until this passes." "Father," Nathan protested, "it's the only sensible option, Nathan. You know that." Emma looked at Nathan, hoping he would defend her the way he had the day before, hoping he would show the same courage she had shown for him. But Nathan hesitated. The silence stretched for seconds that felt like hours. Emma saw the doubt in his eyes, saw the weight of family obligations. Fighting against what? Love, loyalty. She didn't even know anymore. "Nathan," she whispered. He opened his mouth, closed it again, looked at his father, then back at her. Maybe it would be better if you stayed away for a few days," he finally said. Emma felt as though the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "Really?" she asked, incredulous. "You actually think I did this? That's not it. Then why won't you defend me?" Nathan ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "Because it's complicated, Emma. You don't understand the pressure. The city believes whoever shouts the loudest," she interrupted, standing up. "I just wanted to believe in you." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Hayes, we need an official response for the press. Tell them we're cooperating with the investigation," Nathan answered, not looking at Emma. "And what about Mrs. Hayes?" Nathan stayed silent for far too long. "Tell them she's unavailable for comment." Emma felt tears burning her eyes, but she wasn't going to cry there. Not in front of all those men in suits who saw her as a problem to be solved. "Understood," she said, her voice steady. "I'm unavailable." She grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. "Emma, wait," Nathan called. She stopped without turning. "You know where to find me when you decide whether you believe in me or in what the papers say. This is a serious corporate matter," he tried to explain. "It's not personal." Emma gave a humorless laugh. "Of course, it's not personal. Nothing between us ever was. It was only business." She left the room, slamming the door. In the hallways of Hayes Enterprises, employees looked at her with a mix of curiosity and pity. Emma kept her head high, but she felt every stare like a dagger. When she reached the lobby, she tried to rehearse in her mind what she would say to the journalists. Something dignified, something that wouldn't show how shattered she was inside. But when she pushed through the glass doors and saw the crowd of reporters, the words vanished. "Emma, how do you respond to the accusations? Are you going to divorce Nathan? Is it true the marriage was staged?" Emma stopped in the middle of the crowd, surrounded by cameras and flashes. For a moment, she thought of telling them everything. The contract, the blackmail, the forced marriage. But then she remembered Nathan's face when he had hesitated to defend her. "No comment," she said, pushing her way through the journalists. She managed to reach the street and hail a taxi. When she collapsed into the back seat, she finally allowed the tears to fall. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Where to, miss?" Emma thought. She couldn't go back to the penthouse. She couldn't stay in Los Angeles airport, she murmured. As the taxi pulled away, Emma looked one last time at the Hayes Enterprises building. Nathan stood at the window on the 20th floor, watching her leave. She disappeared into the Los Angeles traffic, carrying with her a broken heart and the feeling of being betrayed by the only man she had begun to trust. Rain beat against the penthouse windows like tears from the sky. Nathan had been sitting on the leather sofa for 3 hours, staring at his phone without the courage to call Emma. She hadn't gone to the airport. Vivian had called to say Emma was in the guest room of the Bel Air mansion, refusing to speak to anyone, especially him. Nathan grabbed the car keys. The Hayes mansion was wrapped in darkness when he arrived. Only one light was on upstairs, the room where Emma was hiding from the world. Vivian greeted him at the door, wearing a silk robe and a disappointed expression. "You're late," she said dryly. "How is she?" "Heartbroken. Thank you for asking." Nathan lowered his head, ashamed. "Mother, you were a coward." Vivian cut him off. "And now you're going to go upstairs and fix this. And if she doesn't want to see me, then you'll beg until she does." Nathan climbed the stairs like a man walking to his own execution. The bedroom door was slightly open. He knocked gently. "Emma." Silence. He pushed the door open slowly. Emma was sitting by the window, hugging her knees, watching the rainfall. She had traded the formal dress for a t-shirt and jeans borrowed from Vivian. "May I come in?" She didn't answer, but she didn't tell him to leave either. Nathan stepped closer with caution, as if she were a wounded animal that could run away at any moment. "Emma, you think I did it, don't you?" she interrupted, still not looking at him. "No." "Then why didn't you defend me?" Nathan sat in the armchair by the window, keeping some distance. "Because I'm a coward." The blunt honesty of his answer finally made Emma look at him. "At least you admit it. I'm afraid," he continued, his voice low. "Afraid of disappointing my father. Afraid of losing the company? Afraid of what?" Nathan hesitated, of feeling something real for you. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the rain. Emma turned fully toward him. What did you just say? You heard me, Nathan. I didn't want this to happen. He went on, words spilling out. It was supposed to be just a contract, a business deal, but then you came along with that wild courage, that brutal honesty. And he stopped, running a hand through his hair. And what? And now I can't imagine my life without you causing a scene at my breakfast table. Emma felt something stir in her chest, something warm and dangerous. You're being ridiculous, probably. But it's the truth. The rain grew heavier, forming a curtain of water against the windows. Nathan stood and stepped closer. Emma, I should have defended you today. I should have told my father and all those lawyers to go to hell. Why didn't you? Because I'm 32 years old and I'm still afraid of my father, he admitted, laughing bitterly. Pathetic, isn't it? Emma studied him. For the first time, she saw real vulnerability in those green eyes. Not the millionaire CEO, not the rebellious heir, just Nathan. Everyone is afraid of something, she murmured. What are you afraid of? Trusting the wrong people like me? Emma didn't answer, but her silence was answer enough. Nathan took another step closer. If I get any closer, I won't go back, he said, his voice rough. Emma's heart raced. He was so near she could smell his cologne, see the small scar on his eyebrow that still intrigued her. Nathan, say stop and I'll stop. She didn't. He raised his hand and touched her face gently, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. You're crying, he whispered. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Do you even cry prettily? Emma laughed despite the tears, and the sound seemed to break something open in Nathan's chest. You're impossible, she murmured. And you're everything I never knew I wanted. They were so close now. Emma could count his eyelashes. The explosive chemistry she had tried to ignore for weeks finally took over everything. Nathan tilted his head. Emma closed her eyes, and then his phone rang. The sound cut through the moment like a blade. Nathan closed his eyes in frustration. Let it ring, Emma whispered. It could be important. More important than this. The phone stopped ringing. For a second, the world was theirs again. Then it rang once more. Nathan stepped back with a sigh. Hello? Emma watched his expression change instantly. What? When? He looked at Emma, alarmed. I'm on my way, he hung up. What is it? Emma asked. Samantha leaked our marriage contract to the press. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. How did she get it? I don't know. But now the whole world knows our marriage is fake. The intimate moment dissolved like a soap bubble. Reality came crashing back with full force. I need to get back to Los Angeles, Nathan said. The scandal will be devastating. Emma finished. They looked at each other, still feeling the echo of the almost kiss, but now divided again by the storm Samantha had unleashed. Emma, about what almost happened. Nothing happened, she said too quickly. Right. Nothing happened. But when Nathan left the room, leaving Emma alone with the rain and the taste of lost possibilities, they both knew he was lying. Something definitely had happened. And now it was too late to turn back. Samantha Brooks's office on the 30th floor gleamed like a predatory aquarium in the Los Angeles night. Floor-to-ceiling glass reflected the city lights, creating the illusion that she was floating above the world. Benjamin Cole sat across the marble desk, spreading documents like cards in a dirty game. Perfect, murmured Samantha, examining the pages. Her signature looks identical. 3 years of practice, said Benjamin proudly. I hired the best forger on the West Coast. Samantha smiled, but there was no warmth in that smile. Only the cold satisfaction of someone about to destroy a life. And the bank transfers, all traceable to ghost accounts in her name. Benjamin adjusted his glasses. When this hits the press tomorrow, Emma Thompson will look like a professional criminal. Excellent. And Nathan, he'll have to choose between saving the company or saving his wife. Benjamin chuckled softly. Knowing the Hayes, it isn't hard to guess which choice he'll make. Samantha stood and walked to the window. Below, Los Angeles pulsed like an electronic heart. Somewhere in that city, Emma was about to discover her life was about to be torn apart. Do you know what annoys me most about her? Samantha asked without turning. What? Her authenticity. That girl really believes she can win just by being good. Benjamin snorted. Naive. Exactly. And today she'll learn that kindness doesn't win wars. The phone on the desk rang. Samantha answered with studied elegance. "Samantha Brooks. Miss Brooks, this is Jessica Evans from the Los Angeles Tribune. We received an anonymous package with very interesting documents about Emma Hayes." Samantha smiled at Benjamin. "What kind of documents?" "Evidence of financial fraud, unauthorized transfers, offshore accounts. It looks like the Hayes heir's wife isn't as innocent as she seems." "Fascinating," said Samantha, feigning surprise. "Are you going to publish it?" "First, we need to confirm authenticity. But if it's true, it'll be the headline of the year." Samantha hung up and turned to Benjamin, radiant. "The bait has been taken." Meanwhile, in the penthouse, Emma woke to Nathan, gently shaking her. "Emma, we need to talk." She opened her eyes, still drowsy. She had returned there at dawn after hours of thinking about the almost kiss and what it meant. "What time is it?" 5:00 the morning. Nathan was already dressed for work but looked exhausted. The company called. "There's more evidence against you." Emma sat up in bed, now fully awake. "What kind of evidence?" "Bank documents, transfers you supposedly authorized." "Nathan, I swear I know you didn't do it." He cut her off. "But the documents are flawless, identical signature dates that match your visits to the company." Emma felt her world collapse again. "It's Samantha probably, but we can't prove it." "Then what do we do?" Nathan hesitated. "My father wants an emergency meeting this morning." An hour later, they were in Harold Hayes's office. The atmosphere was so cold, Emma almost felt she could see her own breath. "The evidence is irrefutable," said Harold, throwing the documents on the desk. "Emma, you are officially under federal investigation." "I didn't do this," she protested. "It doesn't matter." Harold cut in. "What matters is that our company is being dragged into a scandal that could cost us billions." Vivian entered the room like an elegant storm. "I've seen the headlines," she announced. "Even a soap opera would stage sabotage better than this." "Mother, this isn't the time for jokes," said Nathan. "It's not a joke. It's an observation." Vivian shot back. "This setup is so obvious, it's insulting." Harold stood irritated. "Obvious or not, it's working. Company stock has dropped 15% in 2 hours." Emma looked from one to the other, feeling like a cornered animal. "If I lose my name, what's left of me?" she whispered. The question echoed in the silence of the room. Nathan looked at her with something close to pain. "Emma?" "No." She stood resolute. "You want me to disappear? Fine, but I won't sit here listening to how I'm a problem that needs to be fixed." "Nobody said that," Nathan protested. "No one had to. It's written on everyone's faces." Harold crossed his arms. "Emma, be reasonable. You need to understand the difficult position we're in." "I understand perfectly," she interrupted. "I understand that to you. I've always been just a piece on the board, a problem that appeared and now needs to be eliminated." "That's not true," said Nathan, stepping closer. "No." Emma laughed bitterly. "Then defend me right here, right now, in front of your father. Say you believe me?" Nathan opened his mouth, closed it, and looked at Harold. The silence that followed was the only answer Emma needed. "I see," she said, grabbing her purse. "Emma, wait." "No, Nathan, I see it all clearly now." She walked toward the door, but stopped before leaving. "Do you know what's the saddest part? I was starting to believe this could be real. That maybe, just maybe, you would see me as a person, not as an obstacle." "Emma, but you're right. I really don't belong in this world." She looked straight at Nathan, and apparently, "You don't even want me to." She slammed the door on her way out. Nathan took a step to follow her, but Harold grabbed his arm. "Let her go, Nathan. It's better this way." "Better for who?" "For all of us." Nathan looked out the window and saw Emma getting into a taxi on the street. This time, he wasn't just watching her leave. He was letting her go. And for the first time in his life, Nathan Hayes felt like a complete coward. Union Station in Los Angeles looked like an abandoned cathedral on a cold October night. Emma dragged her small suitcase across the marble floors, her footsteps echoing like an uneven heartbeat. 2 hours until the train to San Francisco, where her parents waited without asking questions. She sat on an old wooden bench and looked around. Lonely travelers, family saying goodbye, couples reuniting, real life happening while hers collapsed like a house of cards. Her phone vibrated. Nathan, for the 10th time in an hour, she turned it off without answering. 15 minutes later, he appeared running through the station's corridors like the lead in a romantic film. Hair messy, tie crooked, breath short. Emma saw him before he saw her. For a moment, she thought of hiding, but she was tired of running. "Emma," he shouted when he finally spotted her. Some passengers looked over, curious about the drama unfolding in the station. Nathan stopped in front of her, trying to catch his breath. "You can't leave," he said between breaths. "Yes, I can. And I will. Emma, please let me explain." "Explain what?" she shot back, standing up. "How you left me alone again. How you chose your family instead of believing me. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "It's complicated. You don't understand the pressure." "The pressure?" Emma laughed, but the sound carried no humor. "Nathan, I was publicly accused of fraud. My name is being torn apart in the press, and you're talking about pressure." "I know, but what?" "Your company matters more than my dignity." Nathan stayed silent for far too long. "That's not it." "Then what is it?" It's that he struggled with the words. It's that I'm afraid of losing everything. Emma looked at him, seeing the raw vulnerability in his eyes. "And you think I'm not? You think it's easy for me to be here in a world that isn't mine, being judged by people who see me as an intruder, Emma?" "I wasn't born to fit into your suit, Nathan," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "I wasn't born to smile for cameras and pretend I don't care when they call me a gold digger." An announcement echoed through the station. "Train to San Francisco, Platform 3. Boarding in 10 minutes. Nathan looked at the schedule board, then back at her. "Don't go. Please." "Why?" Emma asked. "Give me a reason. A real one." Nathan opened his mouth, but the words didn't come. Emma saw the battle inside him, the war between his heart and his family obligations. "I need you," he murmured at last. "Need me for what? To be your pretend wife? To smile at events and fake happiness? No. I need you because you make me want to be better." Emma felt something stir in her chest, but forced herself to stay firm. "Wanting isn't enough, Nathan. Wanting is easy. Fighting is what's hard. I will find after I'm gone. After your family decides I'm no longer a problem." Nathan took a step closer now. "I'll fight now. Against who?" "Your family. Samantha. The press." Emma shook her head. "You don't even know where to begin." "Then teach me." The sincerity in his voice almost disarmed her. "Almost. Nathan, I'm tired. Tired of being seen as an obstacle, as a problem to be solved. Tired of having to prove I deserve to exist in your world. You don't need to prove anything." "Yes, I do, and you know it." Another announcement. "Final boarding call. Train to San Francisco." Emma picked up her suitcase. "Emma, please. If the train's delayed, maybe I'll change my mind," she said, trying to lighten the tension with humor. But the joke came out far too melancholy. Nathan followed her to the platform. "What if I go with you?" Emma stopped, surprised. "What? What if I leave everything here and go with you?" "You wouldn't do that." "I would if you asked me to." Emma looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of a lie. She found none. "I can't ask that of you." "Why not?" "Because if you give everything up for me, one day you'll blame me for it. And I don't want to be the reason you lost your family." The train whistle blew. The doors opened. "Emma, I have to go. And what about last night?" "About what?" "Almost nothing happened." She lied. "Yes, it did. And you know it." Emma stepped onto the train but stopped at the door. "Nathan, you're a good man, but you belong to a world that will never accept me. And I can't keep pretending that doesn't matter." Though the doors began to close. "Emma!" Nathan shouted, stepping forward. "Take care of yourself," she whispered. The train began to move. Nathan ran alongside it for a few meters, then stopped, watching it disappear into the Los Angeles night. He was left standing alone on the empty platform. Emma's words still echoing in his mind. For the first time in his life, Nathan Hayes knew exactly what he had to do. He had to fight, not for the company, not for the family, for her. And this time, he would not hesitate. The Beverly Hills Hotel had been transformed into a crystal palace for the most important business event of the Los Angeles year. 500 guests, television cameras, and Nathan Hayes on stage about to make the biggest mistake of his life or the biggest decision. Harold stood at the microphone, smiling at the audience like an emperor, announcing victories. "And now," he said, his voice echoing through the golden hall, "I am pleased to announce an alliance that will revolutionize the West Coast real estate market." Nathan watched from backstage, his heart pounding like a war drum. In the last 48 hours, he had uncovered things about Samantha and Benjamin that changed everything. "The merger between Hayes Enterprises and Brooks Development," Harold continued, "will be sealed not only by contracts, but by family union." A wave of murmurs swept through the audience. Journalists raised their cameras. "My son Nathan will marry Samantha Brooks next month." The hall erupted in applause. Nathan watched as Samantha walked onto the stage, radiant in a white dress, waving like a newly crowned princess. Vivian, sitting in the front row, looked as if she had just swallowed a lemon. "Nathan," Harold called, "come, greet your bride." The expectant silence filled the room. All cameras turned toward the backstage, waiting for the heir to appear. Nathan took a deep breath and walked onto the stage, but instead of going to Samantha, he stopped at the microphone. "Thank you, Father," he said, his firm voice echoing through the hall. "But I need to make a correction." Harold frowned. "Nathan, I'm already married." The silence that followed was deafening. Not a glass clinked. Not a single cough was heard. "Son, we know that was only a temporary arrangement," Harold said, trying to contain the damage. "But now it wasn't an arrangement." Nathan interrupted, looking directly at the cameras. "It was the best decision of my life." Samantha turned pale as her dress. "Nathan, you're making a mistake," she hissed. The mistake was not saying this sooner. Nathan faced the audience, who watched him as if witnessing a car crash in slow motion. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathan Hayes and I love my wife." A ripple of surprise spread through the hall. Phones were raised. The business event had turned into live drama. "Emma Thompson Hayes," he continued, "is the bravest, most honest, and most incredible woman I have ever known. And if you're surprised by this declaration, imagine how I feel." Harold tried to step closer to the microphone, but Nathan didn't move aside. "In the past weeks, my wife has been slandered, falsely accused, and attacked by people who cannot accept that someone can truly be good in this city." "Nathan, stop this," Harold muttered. "I won't stop, Father, because for the first time in my life, I have something worth fighting for." Vivian, in the audience, began clapping slowly, a solitary applause that echoed in the hall like a drop in a still lake. "Emma," Nathan continued, looking directly into a television camera, "if you're watching, I want you to know that I discovered who really forged those documents." Samantha stepped back, alarmed. "It was Samantha Brooks and Benjamin Cole. I have the evidence. I have the recordings. I have everything." The hall erupted. Journalists shouted questions. Security guards rushed to the stage. Samantha tried to leave, but was surrounded by reporters. "Benjamin confessed everything last night," Nathan shouted over the commotion. "In exchange for immunity, he handed over the entire counterfeiting operation you set up, Samantha." "That's a lie," Samantha yelled, but her voice was lost in the chaos. Nathan returned to the microphone. "Emma, I know you're in San Francisco. I know I hurt you, that I disappointed you, that I was a coward when you needed me most." The audience grew quiet, mesmerized by the public climax unfolding before them. "But I don't choose business alliances. I choose your heart." Vivian was crying now, clapping harder. "I choose the woman who stormed into a cafe to defend her friend. I choose the one who faces bribes and blackmail without losing her integrity. I choose the one who makes me want to be better than I am." Harold tried one last time to reach the microphone, but Vivian rose from her seat. "Let him finish, Harold," she shouted. "Emma," Nathan said, his voice breaking slightly, "I know you told me you weren't born to fit into my suit, but maybe I can learn not to need one." The hall was completely silent now. Even the reporters stopped shouting questions. "If you give me a chance, a real chance, I promise this time I'll fight. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Now." Nathan glanced at Samantha, who was being escorted out by security. "The contract we signed wasn't about an arranged marriage. It was about discovering that sometimes destiny disguises itself as coincidence. It was about turning a false bond into true love." He pulled off his tie and threw it to the ground. "Emma Thompson, will you marry me for real this time?" The cameras captured every second. The question echoed through the hall, broadcast live across Los Angeles. Vivian stood up in the audience. She said, "Yes," she cried, laughing and crying at the same time. "Mother, you can't answer for her. Nathan said, laughing despite the tension. Yes, I can. I'm the mother-in-law. The hall erupted in laughter and applause. But Nathan kept his eyes on the main camera, waiting. Somewhere in San Francisco, Emma was watching, and headlines were already exploding across the internet. Hayes heir declares love live. Scandal CEO abandons bride at the altar for true love. Nathan had just staked his entire life on a single card. Now he could only find out if Emma was willing to play too. Emma was in her parents' garden in San Francisco when Nathan appeared among the rose bushes like a determined ghost. It was almost midnight, and she hadn't been able to sleep since watching his declaration on television. 2 hours by plane from Los Angeles to get there. How did you find me? She asked, not rising from the wooden bench where she sat. Vivian, he said out of breath. She said your mother posted photos of the garden on social media, and you came all the way here based on a picture of roses from social media. I came because I love you. Emma didn't understand right away. And when she realized what he had said, her heart raced, but she forced herself to remain composed. Nathan, let me speak first, he interrupted, stepping closer. Please. She nodded, still gazing at the stars above them. I ruined everything, Nathan said, sitting beside her on the bench. I was a coward when you needed courage. I chose safety when you needed someone willing to risk it all. Why did you change your mind? Because I realized a life without you isn't worth living, even if it's a safe life, a wealthy life, one approved by my family. Emma finally looked at him. And your company? Your father? Did Samantha get what she wanted? Samantha is under investigation for fraud. Benjamin has already confessed everything in exchange for a deal with the prosecutor's office and my father. Nathan smiled. My father is furious, but Vivian said if he doesn't support me, she'll reveal where he hides his Cuban cigars. Emma almost smiled. And that's a serious threat. You don't know my mother when she wants something. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the wind in the leaves. Nathan, I saw your declaration on television, Emma said softly, and it was the scariest and most beautiful thing I've ever seen anyone do. Scary. You risked everything in a public declaration without knowing if I'd forgive you. What if I had said no? Nathan looked at her. Then I would have spent the rest of my life knowing that at least I tried to fight for what truly matters. Emma felt tears sting her eyes. You would really give it all up? The company, the inheritance, the world. You know, Emma, I already did the moment I stepped on that stage and chose you in front of 500 people and in every camera in Los Angeles. And what if it doesn't work? What if we discover we're incompatible outside of all this drama? Nathan chuckled softly. Then at least let's find out by frying eggs together at breakfast. You remembered the eggs? I remembered everything. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment. You made me feel like I was more than just an heir fulfilling obligations. Emma turned fully toward him. Nathan, I'm afraid of what? Of believing, of trusting, of finding out this is too big for the two of us. Nathan gently took her hands. I'm afraid too, but you know what scares me more? The thought of not trying. And if your family never accepts me, then we build our own family. You, me, and whoever else wants to be part of our crazy story. Emma looked down at their hands, now intertwined. Do you really think you can be happy away from all that luxury? Emma, I discovered something these past weeks. All that luxury means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with. And the person I want to share everything with is you. Even when I cause scandals in cafes, especially when you cause scandals in cafes. Emma finally smiled. And when I burn dinner, I'll order takeout. And when I fight with you over the remote, I'll buy a bigger television. And when I don't know how to behave at high society events, I'll teach you. Or better yet, you'll teach me not to go to those events. Emma laughed, the sound echoing through the garden like music. Nathan, are you sure? Absolutely sure this is what you want. Nathan stood up and knelt before her on the wet grass. Emma Thompson, I choose you when the city applauds and when it turns its back. I choose you on good days and through scandals. I choose you when everything goes right and when everything falls apart. Emma felt the tears finally roll down her cheeks. I choose you even on the days you forget to make coffee. He continued, pulling a simple ring from his pocket. Will you marry me for real this time? No contracts, no blackmail, just because we discovered that two completely incompatible people can be perfect together. Emma looked at the ring. It wasn't the giant diamond she imagined millionaire heirs would give. It was delicate elegant, real. Where did you get this? It belonged to my grandmother, the only person in the family who married for love and was happy until the end. Emma stretched out her trembling hand. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, I will. I accept your crazy family. I accept making more scandals in Los Angeles. Nathan slid the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. This time, no phone rang, no emergency interrupted, just the two of them in the garden under the stars, sealing a promise that had begun as a lie and had turned into the truest truth of their lives. When they pulled apart, Emma smiled mischievously. Now you'll have to learn to fry an egg properly. It's worth it, Nathan answered, kissing her again. And for the first time since they met, Emma believed that maybe, just maybe, fairy tales could happen in Los Angeles too. Now, all that was left were the preparations for the real wedding. 3 months later, the garden of the Hayes mansion in Bel Air looked like the setting of a modern fairy tale. Golden lights hung from the old trees like earthly constellations, and the March sunset painted the Los Angeles sky in shades of coral and gold. Emma adjusted her simple ivory silk dress for the 10th time, nervous like a teenager on her first date. "Stop fiddling with your dress," said her mother, Susan Thompson, smoothing one last strand of her daughter's hair. "You look perfect. It doesn't feel real," Emma murmured, looking out the bedroom window. "It feels like I'm going to wake up and find out it was all a dream." "Nightmare, you mean?" Her best friend, Laura, appearing in the doorway with a huge smile. "Marrying a handsome millionaire in Los Angeles. How awful." Emma laughed, and the tension finally eased. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me the wedding of the century to be maid of honor at." Down in the garden, 150 guests waited in a harmonious mix of elegance and simplicity. No excessive pomp or show. Emma had insisted on a ceremony that reflected who they truly were, not who others expected them to be. Nathan stood by the makeshift altar among the rose bushes, adjusting his tie for the 100th time. This time, a simple navy blue tie. No gala tuxedo. "Relax," said Ryan, his best friend and best man. "It's just a wedding being streamed live to 2 million people." "Thanks. That helps a lot." "You're welcome. That's what friends are for." Vivian sat in the front row, radiant in a lavender dress, handkerchief, ready for the inevitable tears. Harold, beside her, was still getting used to the idea of having a daughter-in-law who challenged him regularly. But at least he had stopped suggesting prenuptial contracts. "She's coming," someone whispered. The music began. Not the traditional wedding march, but an acoustic version of At Last Sung, Live by a Family Friend. Emma appeared at the end of the rose-petal aisle, arm in arm with her father, a retired accountant who still couldn't quite believe his daughter had turned into the Cinderella of Los Angeles. Nathan felt the air leave his lungs. She was breathtaking, not because of the dress or jewelry, but because of the expression on her face. Pure happiness, without masks or pretenses. When she reached the altar, Emma whispered to Nathan, "No regrets?" "None," he answered. "And you? Just one?" His heart raced. "Which one? We should have done this at the cafe where we met." Nathan laughed softly. "We can renew our vows there on our first anniversary. Promise? Promise?" The officiant, a family friend, and judge who had agreed to perform a more personal ceremony, cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" "We shall," they both said together, making the guests laugh. "Nathan and Emma will now read their own vows," announced the judge. Nathan pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, then folded it again. "I was going to read this," he said, showing the paper, "but I realize some things are too big for paper." He held Emma's hands. "Emma, you came into my life like a storm in a clear sky. You tore apart my perfectly organized routine, questioned everything I thought I knew, and made me realize I had been living in black and white." Vivian was already wiping her eyes. "You taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing, even when you're afraid. And today, I promise to be as brave as you inspire me to be." Emma felt her own tears rising. "I promise to choose you every day, when you burn dinner, when you fight with me for the remote, when you cause scandals at corporate events." The guests laughed. "And when you make me laugh until my stomach hurts." "If I'm a problem," he said, echoing an old conversation. "I'm your favorite problem." Emma laughed through her tears. "My turn," she said, taking a deep breath. "Nathan, when I met you, you were just the guy I mistook for someone else. And maybe that's exactly what happened. mistaking you for who I thought you were, because I discovered you're so much better than any expectation. You're kind when no one is watching, funny when you're not trying to be, and brave when it truly matters. The soft March breeze made the lights sway gently. It wasn't a contract that brought us here. It was destiny disguised as a crazy coincidence. Nathan squeezed her hands. I promise to love you when Los Angeles applauds and when it turns its back. I promise to be your partner in adventures and your anchor in storms, and I promise that when you finally learn how to fry eggs, I'll pretend they taste delicious. The guests burst into laughter. Even Harold was smiling. The rings asked the judge. Ryan handed over the simple white gold bands they had chosen together. Nathan, do you take Emma as your wife to love, respect, and share happiness with for the rest of your life? I do. Emma, do you take Nathan as your husband to love, respect, and cause scandals with for the rest of your life? I do, she said, laughing. Then, by the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. The first drops of light rain began to fall, but no one ran for cover. You may kiss the bride. Nathan pulled Emma close and kissed her under the golden sunset rain. The guests erupted in applause, but for the two of them, the world had shrunk to that perfect moment. When they pulled apart, Emma whispered, "Now it's real. It's always been real." Nathan answered, "It just took us time to see it." 6 months later, they were back at the cafe in Beverly Hills, now as owners, the first unit of the social foundation they had created together. Emma was glowing, one hand on her decaf cup, the other resting on her barely showing belly. I think our next adventure is going to be even bigger, said Nathan, kissing her forehead. Much bigger, Emma agreed, smiling, and much noisier. They walked together down the street where it had all begun, planning the future they would build side by side. After all, some contracts are worth breaking, especially when they turn into the most unlikely true love story in Los Angeles.